IATA is the organization in charge of the aviation sector around the world. Has rated Nigeria among the most expensive countries for airline operations. And you know, if operations are expensive, that means the cost of ticket will be expensive. So we want to bring in this to the fore today, because with Nigeria today, a lot of people choose to travel by air, even when they can afford it, given the national insecurity we're experiencing on our roads, which we used to enjoy traveling on before now. Bernard Bankole is an aviation expert. He joins us virtually. Mr. Bankole, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're going to drill down at some point, because some people have argued to nominally, in terms of how it gets to the consumer, whether flights being expensive in Nigeria is relative to income or relative to exchange. There are so many relativity. But let's stay with what IATA has said. IATA has mentioned the fact that operating airlines in Nigeria is comparatively a lot expensive. Maybe you break it down for us, for the layman, and decided one of the things I read was the issue of taxes, and these are fiscal issues. But maybe you broadly speak to us what this really is and why this inference is deduced by the IATA.
First and foremost, you will agree with me that doing business in Nigeria is expensive. I mean, you can't rule that out. Where do we start from? Are we going to talk about power generation, where you have to provide multiple sources of energy for you to be able to run your business? That's one of it, amongst many. But one of the key ones here is this, and why it's making so much impact, is multiple charges. I was really hopeful that the new tax law would pay a lot of attention to aviation industry, as it were, where you have multiple taxes and charges. And I can just give you a very few one. Number one, you have a tax, you have numerous taxes like passenger service charge, you have that there, landing and parking fees, you have navigational charges, security charges, terminal charges, regulatory fees. When you look at all these multiple charges, it has an impact on the cost of the ticket. Let's not rule it out. The operator will pass it to the consumer. The consumer will get to a point where they can't bear it anymore. So the question is, why are we doing this to ourselves? Definitely, we all understand, we know what inflation is. In rise of cost of goods is what leads to inflation. So the question is, why can't the government look into these multiple taxes and charges that are being leveled on these airlines and see how best? And not only are they affected by these multiple charges, do we have the right infrastructure to support it? So we don't have all of this, and we expect IATA report to be different. IATA didn't lie in any way. It is obvious that the government needs to look into this industry. This industry, as far as is the safest and the fastest to move around. And that's what air transport is all about. So safest and fastest way to move. And if you have such an industry that is being belaboured with multiple charges and fees, then the consumer will suffer it. It's just as simple as that.
So let's talk about the global best practice, because now you're talking about passing on costs to consumers inevitably, because business have to survive in that sense and thrive as an industry in its entirety. The jet A1 fuel and the issue around Iran and even the cost of petroleum product has not helped as well. What is the global best practice? You've listed a few things, I can't remember all of it, that are cost component of how the airline, does business in Nigeria. Is this global best practice? Are these costs also what you have in, say, Kenya, in South Africa, in UK, in Germany, in India, in China, and maybe in America? Or is about the amount itself?
So let's look at it this way. We're talking about global best practice. And forgetting that, number one, we have a weaker currency because we have currency volatility. You can't rule that out in our kind of environment. And everything about the aircraft is dollarized. So many factors affecting the industry, the airline from surviving. If you have to do maintenance of these aircrafts, you go outside the country. That's a cost. If you have to train the pilots, you go outside the country. The question is, why can't we create an avenue to make all of these things available? Jet A1 the price of Jet A1 has gone up because of the Iran war. It will have an effect. The question is, what is the government doing in this regard to guide so that these business operators can continue to survive? It's a business, quite all right. The charges we're talking about, it's a global thing. Yes. But every country measures according to the environment. If the global practice says charge $10 as per passenger service charge, I agree with you that you have to charge. Then you now look into your currency. And if you say, okay, if I have to take this charge, there should be other things I will provide that will make the airline to be able to have an avenue that they can still make money. Because we can't rule out the economics. We all understand how fares are being calculated, which is submitted to the regulators as well.
Right.
So the regulator needs to look into the survival of the airlines by eliminating some of the charges or give them leeway for them to thrive and compete with others around the globe. Otherwise, we'll continue to have new entry of airlines and the old ones will be dying natural death.
And you know, there's
airlines are reducing their aircraft's capacity, reducing the number of their fleets, and nobody's paying attention to it. Are we waiting for when the airline will close up? There's an issue that needs to be addressed, and the government needs to come to the round table with the operators. How can we ensure that your business stays sustainable?
Well, and this round table,
attributing it to poor management from the airlines alone.
Mr. Bankole, you know, this round table has been come to severally, a lot, I should say. The minister has had conversations, they've had sit-downs here and there. So maybe you might want to speak to what more or what presence do you need on that round table, different from the representations we've already had? I'm talking from the operators and the government. I don't know who else you think should be on that table or what other issue should be on that table. But I want you to quickly speak to this back and forth around whether, you know, air tickets are expensive all over the world. And I'm sure you've seen that narrative. It's always been said that it's not a Nigerian thing alone. I know even IATA said that, you know, airlines face about $100 billion extra cost for aviation fuel. Profits will be halved, no thanks to the Middle East conflict and the rest. But is it true that when you compare Nigeria to the rest of the world in terms of air tickets, then we're not really different in terms of the price?
Air tickets have gone up everywhere around the world. There's no doubt about it. But Nigeria is unique in terms of our pricing. Tickets originating from Nigeria are expensive. Let's call a spade and not a farming tool. Tickets from Nigeria are expensive. So why can't we look inward to say, okay, how do we support? By the way, a lot of passengers are beginning to think, oh, I could buy my ticket from outside the country because it looks as if it's cheaper. And that's the truth. At times you find it cheaper buying your tickets outside the country.
So are you speaking about domestic air tickets or
I'm talking about the
international?
So
what about domestic when you compare the cost per mile and the rest?
Okay, so let's now come to the domestic ticket. Let's leave the international tickets out. Let's look at the domestic tickets. When you look at why the cost of domestic ticket keeps going up, is because number one, the jets A1 has become more expensive, is impacting on the airline seriously. Two, the charges still remains the way they were before the cost of the jet A1 going up. Now, we talk about the government having a sit down with the operators. It's not just to talk. Every time we see it, we talk and talk. At the end of the day, nothing happens. I think we need to move beyond just talking and start to having action points on what and what will be done. And this thing will be publicized for everyone to see. For instance, yes, jet A1 has become more expensive. Is there anything is there anything wrong in the government coming to the aid of the business and say, okay, at this particular period, we're giving you a moratorium period to suspend A23 charges, which is already affecting the business, by reducing those charges or suspending the charges for a period of time so that these airlines are able to get their acts together. So that would be the government wanting the survival of the airlines, because as long as the airlines are in operations, business will continue to thrive, not only for the airlines, but the passengers that are flying as well. But what we see in real essence is we're paying lip service. Can we wake up and start to face the real issue? What are the real issues here? The cost of tickets keeps going up. It keeps going up because the cost of operation is high. We have a directorate that is responsible for airfares. All they need to do is to put it into calculation. When they calculate the airfare and they realize that, look, the margin the airline is going to make is little or nothing. So how can you come to their support, their aid, by saying that, okay, if this is the current charge of so amount on parking fee, then we might as well say to you that we reduce it by 50% so that the airline can continue to thrive within the industry they find themselves.
Mr. Bankole, I'm wondering what the opportunity cost for a slash or even the minutest reduction of those charges would be. And I'd like you to explain to us how you view happenings in that sector from the point of view of a professional. Is government really paying lip service to these issues? Because last month, the Minister of Aviation did say that Nigeria has entered into a new aviation cooperation agreement with global aircraft manufacturer Airbus, which, amongst other things, will strengthen fleet expansion, infrastructure development, and human capital training within the country's aviation sector. So what are the impediments to the operationalization of agreements like this that will eventually lead to those services being carried out in Nigeria and, eliminating the dollarization and then the, attendant cost on ticket fares and, air travel in Nigeria?
Let me put it to you this way. Yes, thank you to the minister for creating the avenue for the airlines to expand their fleets. But let's put it in proper context. You are expanding fleets in a market where the strain is on passengers because day by day the cost of fares are increasing. Expanding your fleet does not mean that the cost of the ticket is going to go down. It does not mean that the charge is going to go down. I think the multiple charges that we're talking about is what needs to be looked into. It's not a case of having an avenue to expand your fleet. It's a good one. It's a noble one. There's no doubt about it. But we're talking about immediate effect. What is the immediate effect there? That's not going to lead to reduction in the cost of fares. It's not. It's just going to provide you with more resources to be able to ferry the passengers from one point to another. And that's what we're talking about here. Let's look into it. For the maintenance of aircrafts, there are many people that have MRO's licenses around the country. What is the sort of support that's been given? Because either you like it or not, we're constantly being affected by the volatility of the dollar. When the weak naira is pursuing, because everything in aviation is dollarized. So if everything in aviation is dollarized, and we have a weak naira which pursue all these facilities, it means that the airlines won't have a choice to probably fly outside the country to do their training, to do their maintenance. Why can't we provide that infrastructure? Why can't the government have a consortium of a bank to finance this kind of project? So that when we have such, airlines are able to minimize their costs by doing their maintenance locally rather than have to fly outside. Again, we're speaking about the training of the staff. Why will some of this training be done outside? Because we don't have the facility or the expertise to train them locally. So there's a major issue. Let us not look at leasing of aircrafts as a solution to the immediate problem.
Okay.
That is not.
All right.
Have we been able to say, okay, can we reduce our multiple charges? Or can we eliminate some of them that are in multiple stages that is affecting
if I understand you very well, consistently you have maintained. So we can call what you're advocating for, or what the operators are calling for, let's call it a service subsidy. Is that what you're talking about?
It is not a service subsidy.
So what do you call it?
I don't want to use the word subsidy so that it is not misconstrued. Is creating the enabling environment for business to thrive.
Okay. But let's also talk about how much of the, now, I don't know when it's going to come on stream, but the aviation minister, Festus Keyamo, talked about this SPV that is called the Nigerian Aircraft Leasing Company. They say it's going to be designed to help local airline lease modern aircraft backed by government guarantee. I think government should have about 5 to 10% strategic equity in it. It's going to be driven by the private sector. Just as we're talking about operations, how will this help in the short and medium term? We can tell what it will be, maybe in the long term.
Okay, you set up a leasing company. There's nothing wrong in that. It's something that we should have naturally, because at some point, a lot of airlines have been blacklisted by most of these leasing companies. So we've decided to set up ours. Kudos to us. But can somebody just tell me how that will impact the cost of tickets? How that will enable the airlines to continue to operate, as it were? Because everything that talks about leasing speaks to fleet expansion. So let us address the real issue here. Creating an aircraft leasing company is good, but it is not what we need immediately now.
Okay.
I cannot be hungry and you are providing me with clothes. Please give me food.
I think that's a very clear way to put it, and brilliant way to make your submission. The aviation minister and his people, I'm sure they will hear, or they're hearing, and we can see how it plays. I've just been doing some comparative cost analytics here while we're talking on the local flights, let's say from Lagos to Abuja, on a 24-hour notice. We're talking about in the range of 100 to $130 to even $140. Nigerian term now, that's about maybe 145 to almost 200,000 naira. Super expensive, but the airlines even threaten that it can go higher with what is playing out in Iran. But maybe that is being held off based on conversation with the government. But I must thank you so much for coming on the program. Bernard Bankole is an aviation expert joining us virtually. Thank you. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.